All right, class. This is your first video for Concept 1. And Concept 1 is about solving equations. Now, this is very important. Equations. I wonder if I can spell today. Equations. There we go. If you can't solve a basic equation, you're going to have a really difficult time when we get into the more complicated stuff or when we actually try to use solving equations. So today is all about solving really one-step equations. So we're going to solve one-step equations. Now, there's a couple of different versions of one-step equations. And we get to hear the announcements. So in the one-step equations, we might have something like an x plus 4 equals 9. Or maybe like a 3x equals, let's say 20. Let's see, something like maybe a x minus 6 equals 3. And an x divided by 5 equals 4. Now, make sure you understand that that's what this says here, x divided by 5. So, or some people say things like x over 5. I might use both terms in class occasionally, but for the most part, you need to remember that this means x divided by 5. All right, so let's go back to this first one here. X plus 4 equals 9. When we are trying to solve these, we are always looking at the side of the equation that has the x, because our goal is to always get the x by itself. I've seen a lot of students that sometimes start off and they look at the wrong side of the equation. They would look over here where the x, where it has the 9, and they would try to do stuff with that, like subtract a 9 from both sides. But if you have in your mind that the whole goal here is to get x by itself, it kind of makes this a little bit easier. So we see an x plus 4. And yes, sometimes it is a good thing just to read it aloud like that. So I say x plus 4. Okay, so a plus 4. What is the opposite or the undo for a plus 4? And that would be a minus 4. Now you got to do a minus 4 to the other side of the equation. But this is another place where people get confused. Is what do you mean by the other side? Well, where this equal sign is, if I put a little line that goes down like that, one side of the line is one side of the equation, the other side of the line is the other side. So if I do a minus 4 over on the left-hand side, I got to do a minus 4 over here on the right-hand side. Now, then, a plus 4 and a minus 4 become a 0. So that means that I'm left with just an x over here on this side, equal sign right on the line, and then a 9 and a minus 4 is a 5. Easy enough. Same thing happens here. It's still just one step. And in order for me to kind of know what step it is, I'm going to read it aloud. It says 3 times x equals 20. Okay, I'll put my little dotted line there through the equal sign. Then I got 3 times x. Okay, the opposite of times is divided by. So I could write it as like divided by 3, but I really like using the fraction bar. So I'm going to just go divided by 3, divide by 3. I have to do it on each side of my dotted line. Now, 3 divided by 3 is a 1. So this goes away and it actually becomes a 1. So we have 1x. But mathematicians like me are kind of lazy and I don't want to write the 1 in there. So I just write x, which means 1x, equals 20 thirds. And in some math, and I'll tell you when in here, you would just leave it as 20 thirds. Because actually the higher in math you go, the more you don't want to change it to a mixed number. But if you do change this to a mixed number, that would be, let's see, 3 goes into 26 with 2 left over. So 6 times with 2 left over and then the bottoms have to stay the same, 2/3. All right. So this next one, x minus 6 equals 3. So I'm going to go dot, 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 down through the equal sign, which you don't have to do that if you're doing it right already. But if you're having any kind of problems with it, make sure you use that dotted line. And then let's see, minus 6, x minus 6. So opposite of minus 6 is a plus 6. And then I got to go plus 6 over here. And x equals, 6 plus 3 is 9. Easy enough. Okay, this is one that kind of confuses people because they forget that the fraction bar means divide. So with that fraction bar, it says x divided by 5 equals 4. Well, the opposite of divide by 5 is times 5. So I can go, times 5 times 5. These 5's cancel again and give me a 1, which is a 1x equals, wow, I didn't put my dotted line in there. I got to see if I can do this. 4 times 5, 20. Okay, so that's it. So these are all of the basic one-step solving equations. And again, this should be big review because in this class, the first concept that we're doing is absolutely a review. We will move on to harder equations in a moment, in another video. I do want to talk about one more, and it's kind of a one-step, even though technically it's a two-step. But if I gave you a problem like this, this is one where people kind of get messed up because they don't understand what's going on here. This says 9 minus x, not x minus 9. 9 minus x. And so some people are like, well, does that mean that we go plus x to both sides? Well, you could. I could come up here and go, okay, plus x. That gives me, these go away, and I got 9 equals 14 plus x. And now I've got 14 plus x, so I got to go minus 14, and x equals negative 5. Okay, that is one way to do it. The other way to do this is the more normal way, is to understand that this 9 out front, the 9 minus x, the 9 is a positive. Okay, this is a positive 9. And so to get rid of a positive 9, we need to subtract 9 from both sides. And if we subtract 9 from both sides, I'm going to go dot, 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 dot here. I end up with a negative x, because that minus sign is the same as a negative. So negative x, 14 minus 9 is equal to a positive 5. Positive 5. This is why it's a two-step, is because we still have to get rid of that negative. And right now we have a negative 1x, because there's actually a 1 here, just that we don't see it, because, again, mathematicians are kind of lazy. They don't want to put that there. And so it's negative 1 times x equals 5. And so to get rid of a negative 1 times something, we'd have to divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. These go bye-bye. X equals 5 divided by negative 1 is negative 5. And you'll see we ended up with the same answer. If we didn't end up with the same answer, that would be a real big problem. So that's it for this video. In the next videos, we're going to have 3 or 4 of these. In the next video, we'll talk about two-step equations, and we'll talk a little bit about with variables on both sides, and we'll talk about exponents and parentheses and all kinds of good stuff like that. So hopefully by the end of this concept, you're going to feel fairly comfortable solving equations. Okay? If you end up feeling kind of lost, even after 3 or 4 of these videos, then you might want to come and talk to me, and we can get you all set up. All right. Thank you much. Bye-bye.